debating theme, and the theme is social insecurity, economic depression, and crisis of governance in Nigeria. Any solution? This theme resonates deeply with the realities confronting our nation and challenges us as a community of scholars, policymakers, and citizens to critically engage with the multifaceted crisis threatening our collective future. Nigeria today is at a crossroads. Our beloved country, once described as the giant of Africa, now struggles under the weight of challenges that touch every sector of the society. Social insecurity has reached alarming level, with insecurity, insurgents, banditry, kidnapping, communal violence, and others, leaving countless families in grief and communities in disarray. These security challenges not only claim lives, but erode the very fabric of trust and coexistence among our people. Coupled with this is the stark reality of economic depression. From rising inflation to the persistent unemployment crisis, many Nigerians face daily struggles to meet their basic needs. Young graduates roam the streets in search of elusive jobs, while families grapple with the rising cost of living. The potential for growth and prosperity, which was seemed boundless, now appears constrained by systemic inefficiencies and global economic headwinds. Moreover, these challenges are compounded by a crisis of governance. The pillars of our democratic institutions are often undermined by corruption, a lack of accountability, a short-term policy fixes. This government defeats his weakened public trust and further complicated efforts to address our nation's economic and security challenges. However, this colloquium is not a platform for despair. It is a call to action, a moment for collective reflection and strategic thinking. As an academic institution grounded in the Dominican tradition of critical analysis and commitment to justice, Dominican University stands as a beacon of hope. We believe that the solutions are not only possible, but necessary. Our shared commitment to building a better society compels us to seek innovative, inclusive, and sustainable pathways out of this crisis. The Aquinas Day Colloquium, therefore, provides an excellent opportunity for us to dive deeply into these issues, drawing on the collective wisdom of our distinguished speakers, panelists, and participants. Through robust dialogue, we hope to identify actionable solutions that can inspire policy and influence practice. Allow me at this juncture to express my heartfelt appreciation to the organizers of this event, particularly the faculty, for their dedication and hard work in putting together this colloquium. I am also deeply grateful to our keynote speaker, our panelists, whose wealth of knowledge and experience will undoubtedly enrich today's discussion. To our students and all participants, I urge you to engage actively, listen attentively, and contribute meaningfully. Remember that every great societal transformation begins with a spark of insight and the courage to action upon it. In concluding, let me echo the words of St. Thomas Aquinas, who once said, "Better to illuminate than merely to shine." Today, let us illuminate the dark corners of our nation's challenges with the light of reason, dialogue, and innovation. Today, let us chart a path towards a more secure, prosperous, and just Nigeria. Once again, I welcome you all to this momentous event. May our deliberations bear fruits and contribute meaningfully to the ongoing search for solutions to our national challenges. Thank you, and God bless you.
Can we go on clapping? Thank you very much for being here and to be part of this great celebration. On the note of welcome, we welcome the delegates from the Institute of Church and Society, various religious institutes that are here present. We want to promise you, that today's event will be fulfilling. If you have the program, you know that the next we have in the item is number 6, which is the citation of the keynote speaker. I want to know whether we are ready for that, the technical crew. Are we ready with that? Are you projecting any? Let's ask you to stand, please, for the citation to be read. Professor Douglas. Thank you. Before us is Douglas Anele. He is a professor of philosophy at the University of Lagos. He obtained his Bachelor's of Arts and PhD in philosophy from the same university in 1988 and 1995, respectively. Since then, he has been lecturing there. He rose steadily from the rank of graduate assistant to that of a professor. He has supervised and graduated 7 PhD students, amongst whom is a professor and an associate professor. Professor Anele was a visiting lecturer at a university in Germany, 2001, and University of Ibadan, 2014. For over a decade, he was a lecturer in the Advanced Diploma Program for Culture Administrators at the National Institute for Cultural Orientation, NICO, during which period he delivered well-received lectures at workshops organized by the Institute. A columnist for more than 2 decades in Sunday Vanguard and Sunday Punch, Professor Anele has made interesting and thoughtful contributions regarding issues of personal, national, and global concern in several print and electronic media over the years. Professor Anele is a member of the Board of Trustees of the Albino Foundation, TAF. He's a secular humanist who believes that humans have the capacity to make life worth living for themselves, irrespective of gender, race, color, sexual orientation, socioeconomic status, religious and political differences, etc. Permit me to present for these keynotes Professor Douglas Anele. May we put our hands together for him. You can ascend the rostrum if you wish.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Generally, I'm not very good at protocol. So I'll say, Madam Vice Chancellor and other members of the high table on this side, and others on the high table on the other side. Because what determines highness is your perspective. I'm standing on the existing protocol that has been established by the Madam Vice Chancellor. And the interesting thing is that it appears that women are making serious inroads in the administration of the universities. The University of Lagos, where I came from, we have a female as the Vice Chancellor, 2 females as Deputy Vice Chancellors, a single male Deputy Vice Chancellor. The librarian is also a female. So I raise my hands and doff my hat for women. Permit me to crave your indulgence to tell you that this intellectual soup that I have prepared, that we should be patient to, use it to eat our intellectual fufu and digest it and make use of it. The topic is social insecurity, economic depression, and the crisis of governance in Nigeria. Any solution? The presentation is in 4 parts. And the reason why I took what might be called a historical route in presenting this is that many of us here, we are not even born when some of these things took place. And because of the relegation of history in our educational institutions, it is very important to remind us, as the iconic novelist Chinua Achebe said, where the rain started beating us. Because if you don't know where the rain started beating you, you may not even know where it stopped. Now, I began by asking, what precisely is the problem with Nigeria? Why has a country once regarded as Africa's potential first superpower has been zigzagging for over 6 decades from one missed opportunity for greatness to another? How did Nigeria, that many considered as at independence in 1960 as a potential giant of Africa, with the capacity to climb faster than any other black country, in the pecking order at the international arena, retrogressed to become the poverty capital of the world and one of the most terrorized sovereign states in recent times? These and similar questions have been continually asked and answered differently by Nigerians and non-Nigerians, which implies that the country is a tantalizing puzzle that requires unraveling. That the geographical expression called Nigeria was the creation of Imperial Britain is an incontrovertible fact. However, there is disagreement, even up to this moment, whether or not the country can be appropriately described as a nation. Some Nigerians believe that the country is a nation because she is a sovereign entity, has fairly well-defined land and sea borders, together with the basic political, legal, and economic paraphernalia of governance, augmented with certain unifying symbols of political power and citizenship. Others insist that Nigeria is here to evolve into a nation, given that the consciousness of belonging to one unified community with shared aspirations, identity, vision, overarching values, and historical destiny is here to germinate and take root in a significant percentage of indigenes, of the ethnic nationalities that constitute what was initially called Niger area. Besides, skepticism about the status of Nigeria, arising from her complex ethnic, religious, linguistic, and cultural configurations, was expressed by prominent politicians, notably Sir Abubakar Tafawa Balewa and Chief Obafemi Awolowo. For Balewa, Nigeria existed as one country only on paper. It is still far from being united. Nigerian unity is only a British intention for the country. This is an irony. A man who became a prime minister expressing such a view. Okay. According to Awolowo, Nigeria is not a nation. It is a mere geographic expression. There are no Nigerians in the same sense as there are English, Welsh, or French. To understand why doubts about the nationhood of Nigeria is warranted, it is necessary to discuss briefly how Nigeria was designed by Britain without appropriate consultations with accredited representatives of the autochthonous communities that were brought together to form the country. British imperialists created the Protectorate of Northern Nigeria in 1906 and the Protectorate of Southern Nigeria 6 years later. The separate colonial administrations of the two protectorates were amalgamated in 1914 by Lord Lugard, thereby forging a lopsided arrangement that assigned over 2/3 of the landmass of Nigeria to the northern region. Lugard carried out the unification to reduce the financial burden on the colonial power required for running the complicated administrative structure needed to govern the new colonial amalgam. More importantly, this is really important, Nigeria was created for Britain to enhance exploitation of the country's resources and use the revenue from southern Nigeria to assist the economically and educationally backward northern Nigeria. It follows that Nigeria was brought into being to serve the interests of British imperialism, not those of Nigerians. Since its creation, Nigeria has struggled, albeit unsuccessfully thus far, to evolve into a nation where a critical mass of the population across the country see themselves as compatriots in a virile and strong nation, united by strong psychological, cultural, and historical ties in the quest to secure an enviable place in world civilization. The journey thus far. To appreciate better the recurrent problems of social insecurity, economic depression, and the crisis of leadership or governance in Nigeria, a brief excursion into the country's history is a desideratum, for it will bring to limelight how these issues have evolved over time and the manner various administrations have tackled them. The focus here will be on the successive federal governments, but mutatis mutandis, the key insights also apply with varying degrees of validity to the federating units. The history of Nigeria, like that of every nation on earth, is one of triumphs and failures, hopes and impediments, and periods of progress, stagnation, and retrogression. Unfortunately for Nigeria, it seems as if the modest progress in some areas, unfortunately for Nigerians, it seems as if the modest progress in some areas of our national life is repeatedly cancelled out or erased due to egregious errors by the leaders and their willing collaborators within and outside the country. When the country attained what some writers christened flag independence in 1960, she adopted the parliamentary system of government from her erstwhile colonial master, Britain. But within a few years, centrifugal political, ethnic, and religious tensions that had reared their ugly heads during the colonial era mutated into a dangerous cocktail of sporadic violence, mostly in the north. Additionally, the 1959 elections that ushered in the First Republic were manipulated. Election manipulation in Nigeria did not start today. Were manipulated in favor of the North by the last British Governor General and very close friend of Balewa, Sir James Robertson. It is instructive to note that even before the election results were fully in, Sir Robertson had invited Balewa to be Prime Minister. To be Prime Minister ahead of Dr. Nnamdi Azikiwe and Chief Obafemi Awolowo, who were more qualified than Balewa in terms of academic credentials and leadership experience to occupy the position. Still, had Azikiwe and Awolowo formed a coalition, irrespective of their political differences, Robertson would have been compelled to announce Azikiwe as the Prime Minister because his party, the National Council of Nigerian Citizens, had the highest number of votes in the election. As we all know, the government of Balewa was short-lived. On January 15, 1966, Major Chukwuma Kaduna Nzogu and 4 other majors led a bloody abortive coup that ended it. Nzogu justified the attempted violent military takeover by claiming that our enemies are the political profiteers, the swindlers, the men in high and low places that seek bribes and 10%, the tribalists, the nepotists, those that have corrupted our society and the Nigerian political calendar back by their words and deeds. The question is, has those tendencies stopped? You answer it yourself. Needless to say, the coup and its justification by Nzogu set the tone for subsequent ruinous military interventions in Nigerian politics. Furthermore, it set off a chain of events that led first to the Northern Revenge coup 6 months later, and afterwards to the Biafran War, which lasted from July 1967 to January 1970. Except for a temporary return to civilian government between 1979 and 1983, Nigeria was ruled by a succession of increasingly dictatorial and corrupt military governments. The country has been under civilian rule since 1999 to the present, making it the longest the country has ever gone without experiencing a coup d'etat. At any rate, the lingering imprints of the military era can be seen in the fact that